I think first and foremost, the context matters.
Okay, tell me the context, Jem.
I think the smaller the fight, the easier it is to have these type of conversations.
What do you mean?
Because the emotions are going to be there, right? You're angry. You're angry. But are you angry? Like, what are you angry at?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you angry at a lifestyle choice? Are you angry at a fundamental component of this person's like thought process, being,
their values,
stuff like that? It's like, what is the disagreement about? Is he being mad, misogynistic, and like invalidating like who you are?
Right.
Or did he like make a joke that didn't land and it kind of spiraled, right?
Right.
So
Gotcha.
Depending on what that is, the answer can be obvious or not, right?
Yeah.
So if it's obviously the bigger the thing, the more you have to consider if this is a person worth being with. Like that time you called me. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Intellectual Podcast. I'm super pumped because I'm super tired. I've been working all week on a brand new job, but I'm trying to bring you all the energy that is required to be here.
I was going to say, you are coming with so much energy
I know,
right now. I'm really here for it.
It's going to be so bad at the end of it when I'm like tired of
I was going to say, is it just going to like plummet by the end of the episode?
Decline as we move forward. But
slowly but
until
surely.
then, you get this. And I love it. And Renee loves it.
Yes.
And we're your hosts for month 3 of this wonderful 6 months relationship series that we're doing.
Yes, we are on the 3rd episode of this little series. Last week we talked about month 2. Before that, month 1. That's how things
as it goes in sequence. This is 3,
and this is 3.
Right. The first 2 were 1 and 2,
right?
Because we make sense,
right? Exactly, 100%. I can count,
nice,
and I can count backwards.
Right,
also.
She graduated the fourth grade. Look at her, I love that.
Yes, but I'm excited about this episode. That sounded uncertain that I was excited, but I promise.
Question mark.
I promise that I am. Well, the uncertainty is in the fact that like month 3 is when like I think shit like can start really feeling real. So you start getting into these conversations that are just like in terms of like, you know, the flow, the evolution of a relationship. The 3rd month is when things start to kind of pick up in a different way. So it'll be fun.
Not beating each other up. Whoa.
That's so aggressive.
You all start fighting, but not beating each other up. Hopefully, you all beat each other up. That's crazy.
I'm going to go on like a slight, little tangent.
Do it. Do what you got to do.
I was just having this conversation with Matt that I was like, if
hopefully
I was
not beating.
No.
Okay. I was like, whoa.
We were having the conversation about what would you do if you were a man or if you were a woman for a day. So like if you were a dude, what would you do if you were a woman for a day? If you were a guy or girl, what would you do if you were a man for a day? And I said that I would punch someone. And that the first thing that I would do is punch someone because I wanted to see how strong men really are.
You don't have to punch a person for that. Like, there's so many other ways to test your strength. Like, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm so dead serious.
Herculean physique, nice pectorals,
oh my God.
rippling muscles, straight to the chin of some human.
Yeah.
You don't want to just pick up a couch.
I mean, sure, I'll test my abilities in different ways, but I also want to test it through
see if you can
aggression.
Knock someone out. Oh man,
that was just the first. Okay,
scary.
the nuance, the specifics, detail I didn't include in this specific conversation was that it was like if me and Matt had a body switch.
Oh, so, that doesn't make it better. Like, I don't know what you were trying to do with that.
For the audience, in my brain, for the audience, it makes it better in my brain because my boyfriend is like he trains as like a fighter as well. He does like kickboxing, etc. So he like always is like shadow boxing. And in my brain, I was like, if I was in Matt's body, and to be fair, he said the same thing. He said that he would want to punch something also if he was in my body because he would want to see how weak I was. He was like, I would want to see if you're like pulling punches because there have been times that he's like, punch me as hard as you can. I'm like, I don't want to do that, but he wants to see how strong I am. So he's like, I punch myself to see whether you were pulling punches.
Consensus.
We do not hit one another, by the way.
Right, right. Hit me. I want to see how hard you can punch. Are you pulling punches? Consensus. Y'all need help. That was interesting. I didn't know that was where the conversation was going.
Oh my god!
Don't hit your partners.
No, don't hit your.
Don't hit your partners. Don't punch people if you're a man.
No.
Don't want to do that if you're a woman.
Obviously, I would punch another man in that scenario. I'm making it worse for myself.
This is how women think. I understand now. I understand. This is why you guys are so upset.
Yeah.
All the time. Because you just want to be like these really aggressive motherfuckers. You think that's what men are?
I just want to know.
All right, whatever. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
I completely lost my train of where everything was going.
I know. I don't know where that went. But today we are talking about month 3. And we are not beating people. Month 3 is when you are bickering. I think was the B word that you were trying to go for.
Yeah, let's go with that. That's better than beating.
Yeah. You initially brought up beating, by the way. So
I know.
And then it prompted that.
I am very well aware, and I immediately rescinded it, and you kept it going. We love that little anecdotal story that you gave us. Thank you, Renee. That was amazing.
Should that be the question of the day today?
I was about to say, like, that was a good question, but I don't want that to be the question anymore because, like, you took it in a weird place. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I took it in a place that I think a lot of people will actually relate to. And
all right, that's gonna be our question for the day.
Yeah.
If you switch bodies with the opposite gender, what's the first thing that you're gonna do? And women, tell me if you agree with Renee talking about you want to punch someone. What? I can't wrap my mind around that at all. Like, that's so crazy.
I mean, in actuality, like, I would not want to punch someone. Ultimately, it's strength.
I'm trying to take it back now. You said what you said. You said it with your chest.
I did.
And you were very serious.
Funny.
Oh my God.
I do not condone physical violence, everyone. It's a joke, but it's funny because that was the first thing that came to my mind because Matt is a fighter and he punches people like in the ring. So I would want to know. But then again, I would not want to be punched back.
Right. I was just about to say that. So that was our question, right? If you could switch your body.
Yeah.
If you could switch your body, what's the first thing you're going to do? And if you're a woman, do you want to punch things? And if you do, are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? I'm here for you.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah.
For sure.
I'll talk about what I wanted to talk about next week.
Okay, gotcha.
That's why you write things down so I don't forget.
There you go. That's it.
But yeah.
All right. Do we want to get into?
Let's keep it going. What you got?
So for this episode, I was obviously doing research to
as
prepare.
We do.
Yes, as one does. We prepare for this. It just doesn't come straight off the dome like it seems.
It did. I mean, that entire thing just came off the dome. And that would have been a cool podcast episode to talk about. But
that could have. Anyways, I was actually really surprised because we're talking about the third month of dating and kind of what happens and exists within that. And we already had an idea of what we wanted to talk about. I did not realize, though, that there was already a thing that existed out in the world or that people were discussing about the third month, which is something called the 3-month rule.
The 3-month rule.
I literally looked it up. I was reading, I was listening, watching a TikTok of someone was talking about the third month of dating and kind of what kind of happens there. And there in the little search bar it said 3-month rule. And I was like, I clicked on that and there was so much.
Like a myriad of a bunch of videos and stuff like that.
Everyone's talking about it. And I'm completely unaware. Not me having like a dating and relationship podcast. Right. Having no idea that this is happening on the internet.
I didn't know either, which is also insane because I'm usually aware of the things that people talk about.
Right, exactly. So these tropes.
I didn't know that the 3-month was an actual thing.
It's a thing.
Thought I was original or some shit like that.
Right, I know. We really thought we were coming up with something.
Not at all.
Not at all. Never have an original thought. Oh, actually, no.
Now that is depressing.
I know. Now that will send me to a deep, dark depression. Anyways, but essentially the essence of what people talk about in the 3-month rule is that you can only keep up a ruse or a persona or you're putting your best foot forward. You can only keep that up for so long. And by the 3rd month of dating someone, that's when their true colors show. You can only keep the mask up for so long. It's inevitable that the mask will fall. Right. And so, and a lot of the conversations on the internet, people were talking about it was in the sense of the third month, you'll know whether, like, if someone says that they like you, if you feel like they're into you, by the third month, you'll know whether that's really true or how much that's true, based on how consistent they continue to be. If they're still consistent by the end of the third month, if they are still, you know, their actions still show, if they're still into you, whatever, their behavior hasn't changed in any way, then that means that they are really into you, which is, I think, a rule that, you know, humans come up with to make themselves feel better.
There are lots of holes in that, lots of exceptions, as there are.
Right.
And like you said, it seems like a thing that people want to use to like comfort their anxiety, their uncertainty that naturally comes with those situations, which is fine.
Right.
I mean, again, everything with a grain of salt. Don't take everything to heart, because you can find that people are really good, especially now that it's so mainstream. It's like, oh, I just have to wait 120 days. And now
the usual 90-day probation. Probationary period.
The best way to go about it is always to experience and observe.
Yeah.
And constantly qualify people all the time, because people will scream who they are before the 90 days are up.
Right.
Actually.
100%.
People, Americans, Western culture, individualism, they're screaming at the top of their lungs at all time who they are, because people want to be validated and seen. Yeah. They won't tell you straight up, but you can definitely see, if you're paying attention and know what to look for, the type of things that people are screaming. Yeah. So
no, I definitely agree. It's like I said, I feel like it's something that just like people say or to just like make themselves feel better. Cause like I'm trying to like think of examples of like how someone like before, like within those 3 months, how you could know like, okay, they're putting up a persona or like, or whatnot. I think though, like within the third month, and this is kind of the defining feature that we have said of that third month of dating someone, is that is when you have your first fight.
The big one.
The big boy.
The angry, the one that are super emotional and potentially destructive.
Yeah. It's definitely, potentially, especially for like that early, dating. This is like, you may have had little like tension, right? Some like friction happening here and there, which is healthy and totally fine. You're two humans getting to know one another. Right. Obviously, to a certain degree, there's certain things, whatever. But this is kind of usually the third month is when that big fight happens, because of said reasons that we just said. Of you can only really put your best foot forward for so long. And for me, I think like even within that, it's not a bad thing that someone's putting their best foot forward or, showing the best qualities of who they are in like the first couple months. That's like that's a part of the dance of dating, in my opinion, is that you're showing your best qualities. And it's also just like human nature, in my opinion, to want to just put the best parts of yourself forward to the person, and show the bad stuff later. Cause even, if you're showing the bad stuff month one, week one, I think that would scare everyone away.
No one's gonna sit there for that.
No.
Right? The theory that we quickly realized wasn't a viable option was maybe a better way to go about it is just to put your worst foot forward, right?
You're right.
And the people that stay. You know that they're real, and then it's like it only goes up from there. But like realistically, no one's going to that also assumes that people's worst is like really, really bad, right? Like, goodness, how bad is bad? No. I don't know. But like most people don't want to deal with people's bullshit before they have to. Right. So in a way, putting your best foot forward lays the foundation and the rapport and the and now I care about you enough to deal with your bullshit. Yeah. The bullshit is always implied. Right. We all know that you're not perfect, right? But it's like, I don't want to be disillusioned immediately.
Right.
Like, God
right.
Damn.
Like I don't need, and that to a could indicate a whole other thing. So I think I have had people kind of too soon maybe show their ugly sides, and that almost reads like a different type of like red flag, if anything. Of just
I forget what red flag it is at the moment.
Yeah,
but I know what that is.
Like it's like, I don't even know exactly how to like. We're right here.
Mm-hmm.
We're right here.
We
Our
got
brains.
it. We 100% got
But
it.
this is not just about us. People are listening.
I mean, we'll get back to you on that.
Exactly.
As I'm editing this, I will actually try to find where that is, because I know what that is. I've read it. I've seen it. I've heard it talked about.
Right.
I just can't remember the exact thing.
Right.
I don't want to be talking bullshit and give people the wrong information.
100%,
right? That's
100%.
crazy to me. But
yeah, I think there's, like I said, I think there's something healthy and okay, perfectly okay about putting your best foot forward, and also to it being okay within that third month to let that mask slowly fall, right? Because there's naturally going to be, like you said, two humans consistently interacting with each other for several weeks at this point, and someone's going to disappoint someone. Someone's going to act in a certain way that's going to make the other person feel a certain type of way, and that's just naturally going to happen. And I think this is like the natural like dance of things of that around the third month. Because I will say that about the 3 month rule, like there was like a negative connotation about like the mask falls and like what if and their actions completely change. I think can be a positive connotation within that as well, because regardless, like I said, human nature to want to be your best and present your best. And for that to over time, you slowly open up with someone and then you show sides of yourself, or you're not a perfect human. You react in a way that's maybe not savory. That just naturally happens as well. So it's not always like a negative connotation of like, oh, his actions completely changed and like he doesn't like me. It could be like, oh, we've been getting to know one another. And I think this is more what we're talking about. Oh, we've been getting to know one another and now something's come up. Oh, he responded to me in a way that I actually don't appreciate. That's something we need to talk about. Or she did something that, rubbed me the wrong way. I was disappointed by, or I don't know, so these things, it is a natural occurrence as well. Right.
First of all, savory. Great adjective. Love that.
I haven't used that one in a really long time.
I'm like, yeah, savory.
That really just
love
came off the brain.
And then secondly, I think we have to clarify what it means when masks fall, right?
Yes.
Because if a person after 3 months is completely different than what they've been showing you,
yes,
run. That's crazy. Like, what are you talking about?
Run as fast as you can.
As fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
So yes, he is.
Like, no, you're not touching me anymore. Because that's manipulative. That's insane. That's wild to me.
Right. That's very true.
Masks falling. What should you be looking for? What are some things that stand out? We are socialized to be polite in America. We're socialized to be understanding. We're socialized not to produce a negative environment for people. A lot of people don't get it.
Yeah.
But we're not talking to those people.
Right.
We're talking to the people that are like me and Renee, right? So empathetic, self-conscious, polite, sociable. It is what it is. When masks fall, what you're receiving is not a different person. You're just receiving more of the same person.
Yes.
So they're letting you in a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
You're understanding how they react to things.
Yeah.
They're trusting you with a little bit more of their emotional expression.
Yes.
They are they're behaving in a way that's probably more comfortable, like a person would relate to like their family or something like that. They'll laugh at things. You'll get their humor a little bit more.
Yeah. There's positive aspects, right, of the
You'll get
shift.
Probably a little more honesty in the moment that they're feeling things. So we're not like holding back because we're distrustful about the way a person's going to respond, this, that, and the other.
Right.
So that's the characteristics of a person that is lowering their mask. I would say, I guess a better way to say is lowering their guard.
Yeah.
Right? Not dropping a mask. Right? They're not like, rip that off. Hello, it's me now. Like, whoa. No, it's like they're opening up, they're lowering their guard.
Right.
They are existing in a way that showcases that they trust you more.
Yeah.
One of the most defining features of that opening is that with the heightened emotion, with the integration that we were talking about last week, you will find that the fights are bigger, the fights are more intense because you guys care about the situation more. probably more in a selfish way right now, right?
Yeah.
Because you opened up and now you're like, you want it to be worth it.
Right.
So
I'm invested in this. Right. I want to get my investment.
You're kind of protecting yourself from like disappointment and regret and stuff like that. Totally. So that's why you kind of get a little bit more defensive, a little bit more confrontational, but that's also supported by the opening up and the comfortability.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think too, like it's still early on. So there's still not an understanding of who the person is. So there's there can sometimes be a feeling of defensiveness or just like really propping up on your beliefs because you aren't, or like your point of view or whatnot, because you're still unsure of how the other person's going to react.
Right.
So you may react even more because you're like, I need to make sure, like, I know
I need to make sure they view me the way that I am, and you don't even really know where they're coming from.
Exactly.
So it's like, do I have to say this so they get what I'm saying, or is this implied? I can't assume anything. So
right.
You're saying more information than you probably would have to, but it might be necessary. You don't know. And this is why I think like the fights are good.
Yeah. Because
it really opens up the conversation to aspects of interaction and relation that don't easily get brought up.
Yeah.
Like you'll never have a conversation in a meaningful way about how you guys communicate, what your triggers are, all these very necessary things that come with like close interaction before a fight happens and it causes, now you have examples to use.
Now you see it.
Yeah. Oh, the way I like to be communicated with is X, Y, Z, blah, 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 this and that. I was like, even the most actualized people, that's a waste of time.
Right. Like, and you can talk about it and you can try to be as aware of it as possible. But like you said, and when you're having, especially that first argument, like your arguments are truly a dance in a relationship. And over time, you and your partner become better and better at it. When you're having that first fight, it is clunky. It's very clunky. You're trying to figure out what the other person wants or needs, or you're trying like, so any like stuff you talked about during the second month of like, oh, what are your like boundaries when arguing or whatever. It's like, yeah, you can talk about this stuff, but like you're in that first argument, you're having to be aware of so many different elements because you're still not used to that person. So if, like you were saying, I mean, those first arguments, is a really, really big one because of that, because it's like you're the first time you're dancing. You're doing
when you've never danced before.
Exactly.
With this person.
Exactly.
Stepping on everybody's toes. Crazy.
That's wild.
Could it be me?
You're like, I'm a great dancer.
I'm a great ballet, flamenco, salsa, you name it.
Right.
But
I think we can kind of go into the next of just what do we look out for? What does one person look out for when engaging in that first argument? For lack of better words, where like the red and green flags that you should, like more generic ones that you should be looking for when engaging in that first argument with a person, to like suss out whether this is a good partner, a good person to continue pursuing with.
Like, what are the takeaways?
Yeah.
I think first and foremost, the context matters.
Okay. Tell me the context, Jem.
I think the smaller the fight, the easier it is to have these type of conversations.
What do you mean?
Because the emotions are going to be there, right? You're angry. You're angry. But are you angry? Like, what are you angry at?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you angry at a lifestyle choice? Are you angry at a fundamental component of this person's like thought process, being,
their values,
stuff like that? It's like, what is the disagreement about? Is he being mad, misogynistic, and like invalidating like who you are?
Right.
Or did he like make a joke that didn't land and it kind of spun, right?
Right.
So
gotcha.
Depending on what that is, the answer can be obvious or not, right?
Yeah.
So if it's obviously the bigger the thing, the more you have to consider if this is a person worth being with. Like that time you called me and he was like gaslighting you.
Oh my God.
Really stressed out.
Should we give context? Just like slight context. I had previously been dating someone. This is like a couple years ago. And we got into our first argument. and he was gaslight central. It was very insane. And I called Jem afterwards. Proceed.
Called me stressed out, and I was what I had to be, but like that's not where I was going with that, right?
Right,
Like,
you were being a good friend.
Yeah,
That's what you had to be.
But the nature of that conflict was like, now I know in retrospect, that's not a thing that you all should be like dealing with and fighting about in your first fight, right?
Totally. Wait, what was the fight? What did we fight about? Do you remember? Sorry, we don't have to.
If you don't remember, why would I remember? I have no. Was it? I thought it was a race thing. Wasn't it a race thing?
Was it? I don't remember. I do not remember at all. I like
blocked it out. Yeah, it was that traumatizing.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Yeah,
right. I don't remember. I just know that that's just not a thing.
It was like one of those situations where it was like the moment that you're arguing about this, you're not aligned. Go. Yeah,
you're stressed out for no reason. And you gotta go. You gotta go.
Yeah, and I think that being said, like if the first disagreement or fight is something about like fundamental to like your value set or their value set, I think that is something that is like it has to be like a hard no. Like you have to walk away from that, because then at that point it's like, okay, we can exist, we can still be, we are so compatible in so many other ways. What does that look like in the long term? Is like, is there much harmony in like your relationship when you have to tiptoe around these certain topics because you fundamentally disagree.
And then like we were talking about earlier, if you guys are disagreeing about this now, what will that turn into over time?
Right. I watched this TikTok several months ago where I think it was a couples therapist. The arguments that you are having at the start of the relationship are going to be the same arguments that you will have for the entirety of the relationship. The arguments never change.
Very true.
From the unhealthiest relations to the healthiest relations, people who've been married for 50 years, you are arguing about the same thing. And it's whether what you are choosing when you are picking a partner is what arguments are you willing to have for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And that's crazy. That's crazy, because now I'm in between my parents' arguments, right?
Yeah.
Because now they listen to me. I have the not authority, but I have the relationship with them, and they respect me enough that they'll tell me what's going on, and I can communicate both sides. Right. Horrible position for a child to be in.
Horrible.
That's neither here nor there. But the same things that they were talking about, and my dad was mad about when I was 3 years old, 4 years old, is the same thing that comes up.
Yeah.
Now, I was just with them last week, and they were talking about that same stuff, and I was like, all right, you've been saying this since I was a child. Let's have a new narrative. Like, let's do something that's not what's going on here, right? Totally. Let's look at it in a different perspective.
Totally.
But it's wild that that's still the default where things go.
Right. Right.
Whatever.
If
you want, I can tell you what it is later. But
that just like being said, like in this like first argument, that is kind of the first indicator in the relationship of where are the areas that you are going to disagree, right? And it could be something fundamental as like a value set or whatever, or it could be something like more like not as like serious as like maybe the way in which someone wants you to like interact with them. So say like, I know, I can say this. Matt and he's very ADHD and not an on-time person at all, right? And then one of our
time is such a good one. Time is such a good one.
How you spend and like respect your partner's time, right? I think that actually was our first argument. Was we were late to something. Actually, we were late to that. We were hanging out with Jem.
I remember that, the bowling.
Yeah, exactly. And that was our first, and it's something that we still like. It gives me anxiety. I don't like being late for things. He can very much lose track of time and just be lost in his stuff. He's very much like go with the flow. I'm very structured, and that is something that we disagree on, or we have like friction in our relationship. And that was our first disagreement. And so it could be something as like more simple, I guess.
That is simple.
As that, right?
Oh, that's what you're saying.
And just like in terms of like when you're paying attention to what you're arguing about, it could be something as fundamental values, or it could be something as like simple as like time. Yeah. Right.
Time is a huge thing for me too. Man.
Not you reminiscing. You're like, damn, that really gets under my skin.
It really does.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it's interesting too, because as you were saying that, I was thinking about before I even consider whether or not I want to date a person, I'm qualifying them.
Yeah.
Like in the periphery.
Okay.
Right. So I'm not like, this is not all the time, but like whenever I'm pursuing people that I know, I like see how they are, observe how they are like with their other friends in relationships. Totally. Like what are the type of things that they deal with? What are the type of things that they experience? How do they communicate? How do they talk about their relationships to me? And then in that, I realized that I make a list of all the things that annoy me about this. And a lot of the times that list becomes the deciding factor about whether or not I want to engage with this person. Because like you said, the stuff that bothers me now, people don't necessarily change in those things. So they're going to bother me later.
Right.
Or those things I want to deal with.
What am I willing to put up with? That's essentially what it comes to. And this doesn't even apply to like romantic relationships. This applies to friendships, to really, any form of a relationship, right? A workplace. Every workplace has their thing that is like not going to be fun or enjoyable. It's like, what are you willing to put up with? What aren't you? And I think that is truly starts to be seen. Like I said, once the, what was the word? You didn't say mask. You said...
The guard.
Once the guard comes down, those things start to truly be seen. So you've seen all the great stuff, and now you're starting to see the stuff where, like, they may have communications problems in this area, or this or that. And what are you willing to put up with, essentially, with another human being?
So things that should be things that you guys fight about that can explode into major fights. Communication is one thing. He doesn't or she doesn't. They don't.
There we go. We covered our bases.
Right. They don't update you at what they're doing. Sometimes they'll go hours or maybe even days without like updating you. And they're not doing anything really, just at home living their life.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's like, I need you to whatever.
Right.
Which honestly, now that I think about it, as I'm formulating these ideas in my brain, I'm like, oh, usually these fights are a byproduct of unspoken needs that you don't feel that you're able to communicate in the moment, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like building up over time.
Wow, live people. We're discovering things live.
I just realized that.
No, that's very true. Because even another one that I was going to think of was like, oh, how do I want to be consoled, right? Because that could be a first argument where it's like, oh, you were presenting this person that you're dating with like, oh, I've been going through this, and they responded in maybe a very like, they didn't respond with enough like empathy or like
cavalier about it.
Right, exactly. And that could be a first argument. It's like, I did not feel like you were like really like,
you don't see me.
Right. Like you weren't really listening to me, or like you weren't really, I was going through this and you weren't really trying to be there for me like that. And that's like an unspoken need, right?
What else? Now I'm going to, some unspoken needs. You guys don't have enough sex. That's a really awkward thing to talk about.
Yeah. I don't know that that's happening during the first 3 months, but
those are unmet needs that will probably blow up.
It'll probably come up totally, but just like saying.
You guys don't go out on enough dates.
That's
he's not romantic enough.
Yes.
She never takes you out. He's messy.
Oh.
He sleeps over and messes up all your shit.
Ooh, inconsiderate.
Inconsiderate, yeah. He doesn't buy you flowers. Those are the things that I think are worth fighting about.
Totally.
And are not deal breakers. Right. Because those are the things that once you communicate, if you're dating the people that we are saying that are worth dating, right? We're qualifying those type of people. Those are the things that they will hear and want to do better on. Yeah. And that can be better. Yeah. If you're fighting about fundamental values, like whether or not you want kids, how much time you spend with your family, how important your family is to you. Right. You don't like his friends. He doesn't like your friends. Stuff like that. Those are things I think is like, well,
those are ultimately
we're
like deal breakers.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. 100%.
Wow,
agree.
That's cool. I did not know that was
you were going to realize that right here.
Whoa, cool. That's actually very useful information.
Love that. Nice. Love that. Well, I guess we can like move forward with the assumption that this is a non-deal breaker first argument. What are things then that you want to glean from this argument, that you want to pick up from the other person, that's like important to be aware of, right?
Right.
One that like immediately comes to my brain is whether or not like how active of a listener they are in that moment, right? Of like,
are they talking over you the entire time? Do they just want to get their point across?
Right.
Do they think that they're correct?
How frustrating. How
I
frustrating.
feel like, especially as a woman, not that I know, but
yeah, you could if you switched bodies.
Right, now bring it all the way back.
All the way back. Sorry, keep going.
I think it's more of a mental thing, actually, for this one.
Yeah.
In that, as you're, especially like the traditional male mindset and how you're going about interacting with your significant other as a man.
Yeah.
Opening up will always generate this conversation within yourself about your relation to like femininity and how you can respect women and all that stuff. Because women in media and as you're raised and stuff like that, they're not respected. You're not shown healthy examples on how to respect women.
Totally.
So it's really difficult to now you have a girl that you like.
Yeah.
How can you respect a girl that you've never been shown what it looks like to respect a girl?
Yeah.
So they're demanding, or not demanding, but they're expressing and requesting all these things.
Right.
And in your brain, this is foreign to you.
Yeah.
So how do you how do you hold them in the proper regard so you're not invalidating their experience completely?
Right.
And the point that I was going with that is that men will often do that.
Right.
Right. And it's not necessarily they don't like you. It's not necessarily intentional, but that's just what they're used to. Like, you need to listen to me because I'm the man, X, Y, Z. And
that's why it's like, I guess when that is happening, it depends on what time in their life that is happening, right? Because I would argue that someone who's even our age older, my age, your age older, should have already started learning those lessons, right? Of like the simple things of, okay, when you're in a disagreement, not interrupting your partner when she's talking and whatnot. Because I think even within like the first argument that you have, I think as a woman that's something you kind of try and pick out, because those little like misogynistic tendencies, and it's not intentional.
Right.
I think, like you said, it's very much socialized. I think men even who are it's either like unintentional, like they're like, they claim or they think of themselves to be someone who very much respects women and all that good stuff. But then when it comes down to like these little moments, they find
they're angry.
They find themselves kind of reverting to these things that they were socialized to believe were okay. Or you're like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Right.
Which is, there's a meme on TikTok where it's like when you're dating like the ultra feminist liberal man, and like how he's actually the most like misogynistic one. It's funny until you're interacting.
I'll get the door for you.
Yeah,
because you can't get it yourself, bitch.
Exactly. Right. Because I think you're stupid.
Yeah. Like, okay, wow.
I'm like, oh yeah. So that's
I'll
really
order.
Right.
You don't know what's good here.
Yeah. See, exactly. Like, and ultimately,
why am I so good at that? I don't like that.
Yeah,
that's concerning.
The thing that the way you know those examples a little too quick.
A
little too quick.
Got to do a little more self-work, clearly.
Yes. But yeah, I think within that first argument as a woman, you should really be looking out for, like, because that's an argument is an easy way to undermine and disrespect or to disrespect a person. Right. And if someone in those first disagreements, right, is like not really listening to you, isn't really willing to face the problem, they're maybe going around about their opinion is the only opinion, and they're not willing to hear you out,
invalidating your experience.
Exactly. Then then those things need to be either like immediately addressed, right? Like in those moments, and it can be hard in those moments to address that, but at least like even the day after, like, I didn't appreciate like the way that you spoke to me. I think that I've been told that, like, hey, you raised your voice at me because I can.
You're a yeller.
I'm not a yeller.
Hey, yo.
I'm not a yeller in like the sense of like crazy yelling. But my voice does get higher when I am upset.
You're not screaming at people.
I'm not screaming.
Sure.
But I have had that told to me. It was like, can you just like talk in a more...
Can you calm down?
Okay,
can you calm the fuck down?
Not that. See, you know exactly how to make Anyways, you're too good at that. Anyways, we'll discuss that later. We'll address that maybe with a therapist. Anyways, but it being like you can address it later. But I think those, because this might be like, I guess it depends to the degree. If it's straight up gaslighting, that's another thing. But if maybe first argument, you're finding that like, you know, maybe they're interrupting you a few times here and there, and like or like you feel like they're not necessarily listening. I don't think that's necessarily a red flag or like a need to run moment. It's maybe just a moment, like a learning moment, in terms of like addressing it at that time. Like, hey, could you let me finish my sentence? Could you let me speak or whatever, or after the fact. But I think even then, what you're trying to look out for, in my opinion, is like basically overall the willingness to engage in that argument, the willingness to like not only just engage in it, but engage in it for a solution.
Solution orientation.
Exactly.
That's a good one. That's quite the good one.
Thank you.
I want to go back to your previous point about men and women and talking over and respecting people and stuff like that. I think a good strategy, a good thing to look out for, and an easy way to bring it to people's attention if you're in a situation and you don't feel like they're listening the way that you need them to. If a man cares about you and he is just in a cycle in his brain and you feel like you're not being respected, just tell him that he's not listening. Yeah. And see what happens.
So good. I feel like you're not listening to me right now. Yeah. So just say that and see what happens.
In a fight, the tone doesn't necessarily matter too much because the words are more important. Totally. Right? And if he cares about you, he will calm down and he'll take a step back. Yeah. And he'll ask you to repeat what you said and then he'll listen. Right. But if he doesn't and he like repeats it back, well, you're not listening to me, then you kind of have a better understanding of the type of guy you're interacting with.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree.
I guess that kind of applies to women more, or women too. Yeah. But I don't think women in fights have issues. The women I've interacted with, they don't really have listening problems.
Yeah. What do you find is like a common thing that you as a man dating women have found?
That are the biggest issues with our fights?
With arguments with the women that you've dated. Have you ever had a first fight with a woman?
I mean,
Jem.
I'm not very like argumentative.
You're not.
So a lot of the fights that we have is that I don't fight. So they're frustrated that there hasn't been a fight yet. Yeah. Which, since I'm not agitated by people are more agitated at me than I am at all. Okay. So
point blank, period.
Right. So the fights that I usually experience are people just they raise and they raise and they escalate and they escalate because I'm just dead calm. And it's not a manipulative thing, right? It's not like, well, you're not going to get a rise out of me type stuff. It's just like, I know what this is about and I understand that it doesn't have to be as big of a deal as it is. So if someone comes to me and they're like agitating, they're hysterical, and they're doing they're mad, right? They're pissed off. Sure. Then I go into like therapy mode. Oh. And I'm like, okay, I sense that you're feeling this way. I want you like to tell me about that. Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Yeah. Right? I don't like fighting. I don't like
conflict avoidant.
Well, you wanted a man that's solution oriented, right?
Right. That's fair. If you're very like, solution oriented.
I'm not like opposed to fighting if fighting needs to be had. Yeah. I've been in heated moments. Yeah. But I emphasize communication over everything.
So you haven't found that there's been anything frustrating about the women that you've dated in the way that they've communicated throughout like the argument or the disagreement when that has been like maybe a common thing that you have found?
The thing that I hate the most actually when fighting women is that they changed the
Subject?
Yeah.
Too quickly.
They changed the subject, not necessarily too quickly. They changed the subject of what we're fighting about.
Oh. So that actually fair.
Yeah. Like,
that's totally fair.
You'll come to me with something and it may or may not be the thing, but it'll turn into what it's actually about after we go through 17 different hurdles about what we're actually talking about.
Totally.
And the mistake I used to make as a juvenile individual, I was about to say juvenile delinquent.
Could be that too. Could be that.
Not. No. As a juvenile was that I tried to attack every single thing that they brought up, which is the trap. Because then I get really frustrated. I don't feel like I'm being listened to or heard because that's not even the thing that we're talking about.
Right.
Which is why in my senior age,
at your big
age, I've learned to not engage with the things that they're bringing up and just go straight to the root.
Gotcha.
But when you go straight to the root, people are caught off guard. They weren't. It's like, that sounds like you are projecting something onto me that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Sometimes people want to go through the motions.
And that can be a catharsis that they need. It's stressful for me. I now that I know and I can see what people are stressed out about, going through the process is something I can't do anymore.
Yeah. For sure.
I'm a weird person to argue with. Yeah. We've never had a fight.
No. I feel like anytime you have frustrated me, or I feel like there's been times where I've like come to me like, hey, this bothered me. And then it's like, okay, that's pretty much about it. Yeah, you're pretty agreeable.
Damn. I hate that for some reason. Why does that sound like an insult? You're an agreeable motherfucker.
You're understanding.
I am understanding.
Yeah, so.
Something you always used to say to me. Beyond all else, you're a very reasonable person.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to be.
Because the funny thing is that like when I'm talking to you, you can be very like in a funny way. You can be very dramatic and very unreasonable. Like when you're trying to express yourself and you're like, oh, I'm so mad or whatever. But like when push comes to shove, you're a very reasonable
human. When I have to take those feelings and apply them to a human interaction. Exactly. I'll do the most reasonable thing. Totally. To create a solution. Yeah. And to have a productive interaction.
Whatever's most effective.
Yeah. And a lot of people take advantage of that. And I guess that's really frustrating too.
Yeah. I think the overarching thing that you should be paying attention to in this first fight is whether the person is willing to engage in it, willing to find a solution, and willing to engage in that solution as well, right? The aftermath.
What does... okay.
Yeah.
What does that look like then?
What does that look like?
Engaging in a solution.
I think actions are a lot of things. So say you are this first disagreement, you guys talk it out. You're like, okay, this is how we can try and reconcile this, right? Maybe that is one person, catering to the other person's needs a little more. So say it's like more consistently, they want you to ask how their day is every single day. Let's just throw an example out there and you start doing that. I think then the action afterwards is important. Consistency about doing said thing after the fact.
Why do you want me to ask you how is your day every single day?
That's just an example that I'm using.
No, that's how they're going to be reacting after.
Oh, okay.
6 times.
Why?
Are you good? Why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this? But I think the consistency of the action and following through with what you guys had talked about and agreed upon, whatever agreement you guys had to come to, is super important. I think maybe unpopular. I think it's okay during this time that there may be times where the other person doesn't do it. Maybe like forgets, like it's a habit that you're trying to form. This is a new person, as we talked about last episode, of learning or that transition from being a single person to being a person in a relationship and considering another human being in their life more. I think in this 3rd month, then when that's really being integrated after having like a first disagreement, I think it's all right that it's not like perfect right after the fact. Like you said that you would do this after this first disagreement. I think it's okay to have maybe a couple reminders. Granted, after a certain amount of time, that's where a different conversation happens. But I think that's okay because it's a new person, new habit that you're forming. Not even just like the habit of being in a relationship, habit of considering another human being.
Right.
And I think that's fine. But I think that action of doing that after the fact is important. I think even too, like if there's like a follow-up of conversation, right? If that is what's necessary from whatever topic of conversation that was the disagreement, following up about it, like so I've been doing this, how are we feeling now? Right? Like just a willingness to be a part of that, like
experience,
a part of that, because this is the first argument is the first formulation of the relationship. The relationship is like a building. It's a structure that you're like creating. And we always talk about like the foundation of a relationship and
attraction, chemistry,
right?
Sifting the ground.
Right.
And now you're starting to build up a little house.
Lay the beams down into the ground, right?
I've never thought of it like that, which is so
this
interesting.
Just also came off the top of my brain.
We are on a roll today. That's crazy to me because
that's wild.
That's so true.
Yeah.
We only talk about the foundations of the things, but we don't talk about the structure.
Right. So you're truly, like I say, the first argument is starting to build that structure, right? So having that like follow up and being like, is this what's working, right? And then making sure that that's like stable in that way, I think is also super important, right?
So you're not fighting repeatedly about the same things over and over,
right?
Which is part of the solution,
right?
But I guess to clarify that, the solution isn't to never fight again.
Yes.
The solution isn't to never fight again. The solution is to meet a need as best as you can,
right? And
to, like you were saying, as you're integrating yourselves, to care about this need like it was your own.
Yes, totally. I 100% agree.
I like this. It's very, very, very interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's also when you are having this first argument, there's I'm gonna say one thing and I'm gonna say the other.
Okay.
I was initially gonna say like you're learning essentially like these are like communication like skills and like tactics essentially, like learning how to like active listen in the moment, let the person like finish their sentence and then respond back, following up about the argument, maybe like a week later. Like these are like communication skills that someone has. And I was going to say that like there can be different types of communication skills that then someone can be like, whether or not you are compatible in like communicating. But I think ultimately, communication skills are relatively the same across the board.
I agree. There's only one way to communicate.
Exactly.
You have communicative styles.
Right.
I need 3 hours if we get mad before I can talk to you.
Ooh, yeah, totally.
But when I talk to you, the skills are the same, right?
Right, 100%. That's like a big one as well. Like someone needing space before having a conversation.
And I guess too, to that point, now that I realize, I always need that, which is why I don't really like that, because I give space for us to calm down. Yeah, I personally don't think anything productive comes from being emotional in the moment.
Fair enough.
I think the feelings themselves are the information that you need, but to express that in the moment usually creates more shit you have to work through than help you out. Right?
Totally. I think that there's like even a way within that that like both people can be like their needs can be met, right? Because I think you can communicate the feeling in terms of like, okay, say like you have some sort of disagreement. And the person that needs a space there, is that like the avoidant, or maybe we shouldn't even bring up attachment styles, but the person that needs the space is like, I need space. The person that is like not wanting space and wanting to hash it out right then, I think oftentimes maybe the feeling that person is having in that moment, and I felt this before, is that I'm left in the dark about what you're feeling. And so I need to know what is happening so that we can then come to a solution. So I think
So it's in that it's more of a not feeling something and disappearing.
Right.
It's more of I'm feeling XYZ and I feel like this is getting crazy.
Right.
And I don't think I can have a useful conversation with you. If it gets that crazy,
right.
I need a moment to calm down.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you.
100%. Exactly. Being like, so the other person's not left in the dark. They know that they know how you feel. And then I think in those moments, that person will feel more willing to then give you that space. So like, okay, I understand where you're at right now. I will give you that space. And then so that we can come back and then have this more productive conversation. Right.
Do you find yourself being able to like just heat of the moment, say what you have to say the way you want to say it?
I am for the most part, how I feel is how I feel. Is usually I'm very unchanging in the way that I feel about things. Like, so I never find that I regret having like it in the moment emotional conversation. But at the same time, I'm very much the type of person who in the moment when I'm in an argument or disagreement with my partner, I'm constantly like, I'm pretty in control of my feelings, like as well. I'm not like just like lashing out. It's very much like, I know that I feel this way. This is what I'm presenting to you. And then I'll have the conversation.
So there's like a implicit self-control.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess like when I think of like, this is the underlying implication for me was the worst type of fights, the types that my family has. They're very aggressive, and like when they feel things, they feel it aggressively, and they have no tact in how they express it. So wherever the chips fall, it falls, and then we have to pick up those pieces afterwards, right? Yeah. But I guess most people that have some sort of understanding of these communications, the communication skills, they don't communicate like that. Yeah. Like I'll be pissed off, but like I'll still love and respect you.
Right. Like I feel no use in calling you the B word.
Right.
Like that doesn't do anything. That's not how I feel. I know that's not how I feel. Right. So why would I say that in this moment?
That's not what I'm mad about.
Exactly.
And if you feel the need to do that, maybe
reevaluate that. Talk to your therapist or get a therapist if you don't have one. Right.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. Oh my gosh. I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something, but I forgot.
The way you communicate in argument.
Yeah. Me specifically. Yeah. But I agree that the difference of like communication skills are the same. Communication styles do vary. I think it's okay if a person has like, I think it would be kind of like a weird thing, but if like someone, this is unnecessary thing to say. I'm just going to continue saying it because I'm already saying it. They're more like they need space in an argument. I can't be with that person. Like, do you think that's like an okay thing to like feel?
You can't be with that person?
Like say like third month, you're dating this guy for 3 months. You're dating this girl for 3 months. And you get into your first argument. She's like, I cannot talk about this right now. I need space. Give me time or whatever. Walks away. And for some reason you feel like I cannot be with a person who's like that. I will not be with them. Do you think that's a reasonable reason to not be with someone?
No.
I don't either.
Not at all. I think two things determine whether or not this is sustainable or not. So one is how they pull away. Yeah. Like we were saying before. And then how long they take to come back. Right. I had a fight. The girl, you know the girl. It took her a week to come back. She pulled away and she expected me to be the one to reach out to her. Red flag. Right. Problematic. Right. And I told her, I was like, shit, and this is just a general rule that I think everyone should have. Yeah. Because in this, the implicit implication, the implicit implication is that relationships are connective, right? So you don't have to question what you're doing here. The goal is to connect. If you need a disconnection and you disconnect it, you have to reconnect it. Yeah. That is your job as the person who disconnected it.
Totally. I agree with that.
And if you don't do that, you are invalidating the very nature and structure of what you're trying to do in a relationship. Yeah. So I don't think it's inherently bad that a person needs a space. maybe people can't process their anger in the moment.
Yeah.
I can process my anger in the moment.
Right.
I prefer to do it on my own.
Right.
And I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I process things really quickly.
Yeah.
So I can come back to you in like 30 minutes and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right. And even too, I realize now, like, I'm really like analyzing the way I argue.
You argue, right?
I'll engage with a person's emotions to an extent. And the moment that I feel like I can't track the conversation and I'm not going to express myself in a way that's productive, that's when I'll take a moment to process all the information, the things that they're feeling, come back with a more productive sentiment.
Right.
It wouldn't take me longer than 24 hours. If a person is taking like oh, I can't do this anymore, I need time to process, I'll talk to you later, and they don't talk to you for like 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's a major red flag in my opinion.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
That's like a whole level of avoidant where I think that's completely reasonable. Like, I cannot be with this person.
And you shouldn't be with a person that's like that, because
100%.
They're not, I feel like that behavior showcases that they're not prepared
for what it takes to be in a relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I think that at the end of the day, like we were saying, disagreements are by nature part of integrating yourself with a person.
Yeah.
If you're not prepared to deal with that, why are you trying to do that?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. No, I 100% agree.
So yeah, those two things are the factors.
Yeah.
Don't take, I think, and true, like I think time period too can be variable.
Okay.
If you need a week, communicate that.
And I think that like we were saying before, the level of the topic of the argument, right? It depends on how long you might need. And granted, in my opinion, I don't think you'll be having by the third month of dating someone, you'll be having such a serious disagreement where it would warrant a week of like thought. But in general, in a relationship, there are probably serious topics that would warrant like, I need a week to like think about this. You know what I mean? Or like a little bit longer. If there was like some betrayal that happened of some nature, right? That would warrant some serious time, right?
So I respect people's time. Respect people's time, the time they need to process things.
Yeah.
But I think I guess if I could create a rule for this, first 24 hours.
Yeah.
Right? You have a fight, it's pretty big, doesn't matter what it's about.
Yeah.
You need to come back and talk about it within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then in that, you can assess whether or not you need more time or you need less time.
Yeah.
Are those feelings still as volatile as they were when you pulled away? Then, all right, I need 3 days.
Yeah.
And then you negotiate from there.
Right.
But especially at the 3-month mark, I don't think you need more.
No.
Than like 24 hours. What are you guys fighting about?
Right. And that would be probably another like red flag is that if you were arguing about like such crazy, like we were saying at the beginning of the episode, like if you're arguing about such like crazy important topics, like and already disagreeing on that so early, like that is most likely a sign of compatibility, of incompatibility, I should say.
Yeah.
So it's at 3 months you're dating someone, you're still like I think also too, like something that, like you're still in your like honeymoon phase. Like you should still be at least, right? You've only been dating for 3 months. So there shouldn't be like some like crazy like arguments that you're having. But with that, I think that even like a lot of the things that we're talking about I think the first argument is, and I don't know if we already kind of really touched on this, but the first argument is the first real time that you're able to then like actually like set boundaries. Like I think all the things that we're talking about, are you willing to wait 24 hours or a week? Or like, are you like, is the person yelling at you or not? Or like, these are all like boundaries that you have in a relationship. That the first argument is the first time that one really has to kind of like set those boundaries. Right.
And I want to have an episode about boundaries because I feel like it's a very useful conversation.
Totally.
But I think there's two different types. Right?
Okay.
So ones are the inherent boundaries that you have with yourself, unchanging. Anybody crosses them, hard pass. Right? Yeah. Other boundaries are the boundaries that you create per person. Right? Not everyone needs the same boundaries.
Totally.
And in that, the fight is the beginning of you creating a relationship together.
Yeah.
The boundaries are the panels, the framework on top of the foundation, right? That helps you create the structure that you're trying to create.
Yeah.
So in that, the first fight gives you the opportunity to discuss these things, right?
Yeah.
How long do you need to process things? Now you know because you have an opportunity to process things.
Right.
How do you like to be talked to? Do you want to be held if you're upset? Should I give you the space that you need? And all these ways that you don't realize, like even we were processing the way that we communicate and what we need in arguments in real time right here.
Right.
So I think for the people that are experiencing that, they'll learn how to do that while they're doing it.
Yeah.
And the communication that happens there is the boundary framework that you have moving forward.
Yeah.
And in those two different types of boundaries, right? As you're creating this, like we were saying before, you communicate through that process because it's a habit that another person's forming.
Yeah.
And it's truly, because it's a new person for you, this is a boundary that you are creating with them.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, that's why I use like negotiation.
Right.
It's really like, okay, well, I guess you don't have to do that every time. But if it's this type of argument and it lasted this long for this reason, then I need you to do this.
Right.
Right. And we can kind of play around with that as we formulate the house. We can add little windows, little overlooks, you know.
Right.
I want my countertops to be marble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. We have to, there has to be agreement.
I actually hate
there.
marble countertops, so I don't know what I said that. But you know what I mean?
That's the first thing that came to mind. It's an easy one.
Right.
It's an easy one.
I like more brutalistic architecture, but that's neither here nor there.
What? Oh my gosh.
Brutalism, Renee.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what that is.
He's not an architect. Oh my
I'm
God.
clearly not. No, I do not watch or listen to Arc Digest or.
We're definitely gonna get you into that for sure.
For sure. I enjoy pretty things. I'm on Pinterest.
Hell yeah. Then you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Sure. Okay, I probably do. Then I just don't know the name of it. Is probably more so
it's
what
like
it is.
Cement hard angles.
Oh my God. Oh God.
Industrial.
Hate it. I hate your taste. Absolutely hate it.
Wow. It went from me trying to guide her into my little whatever. You know what? Never opening up again. Thank you for letting me know. That's my boundary now.
Oh, but that's your boundary. Don't talk to me about my
Don't talk to me about architecture.
My interior design taste.
Yeah, fuck you.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Fair enough.
And if someone reacts like that to things you're trying to share with them, red flag, run away. Run away immediately.
That was an example. Don't. That happens. That's a non-negotiable right there. Deal breaker.
Horrible. What are you teaching the people?
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, I agree. Boundary setting, like it's also like the boundaries that you're creating aren't just like it's not entirely against the other person. It's like for the sake of the relationship or the potential of the relationship, right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm just so good today.
You are on a roll.
I'm a
today,
sharp
man.
tack.
And then she lost it. And it's gone. But
gone.
That's so true. That's so true. I feel like a lot of times too, people get into the mistake as we're transitioning from single to relationship,
right?
That you have to protect yourself, right? Two different type of boundaries,
right?
Two different type of boundaries. One for yourself, the other for the relationship. Yo, that's crazy.
No, that's I think that's super important. And that can like look like a lot of different things. I know. For Matt and I are one of our, I don't know as much of a boundary or as much as a thing that we do. We constantly say thank you to one another. I appreciate you. No matter if it's like something that is unexpected or just like as you know, you're in a relationship, you get into a routine. There's things that you just do for one another, right? But always saying thank you through that. That's something that we need to do at all. And some people don't do that necessarily, but we've done it for the sake of our relationship. That's a boundary, so to speak, that we have set for our relationship because we believe that gratitude towards our partner is of the utmost importance. Yeah. And so that's something that we have then created, right?
So then my next question, is that a byproduct of a fight you had?
Actually, no. It was just something that we and our
byproduct of previous fights you had in the past with other people?
With maybe other people.
Right.
I I think for the both of us, just not even necessarily other relationships, just in our lives, we're both people that we were just having this conversation before we started recording of how we both have we'll do a lot in our lives and we'll go above and beyond for things, work, people, because and the people that we love, of course, because we want to make them feel like special, yada, yada, or we want to be successful we're overachievers in our lives, both of us. And I think and you understand because you were just talking about this, in your own way. Overachievers, I think in life you can feel underappreciated for the work that you do, and I think both of us have that kind of sentiment. And granted, no one's asking you to put in all the work to do all the things, whatever. That's a whole other conversation. But in general, we're both those types of people that go above and beyond in a lot of areas of our lives. And so I think we just in a conversation, just naturally, we're just like, we both like feeling like gratitude, and we both like making other people feel like we're grateful for them. We never want other people to feel like we don't feel grateful for them. So it's just something that we naturally we just always did it, and we
both needed it.
Then we started talking about how we both always do it, and we're like, oh, that's something that we want to continue doing.
Nice. So
that's what it was.
So not everything has to be a fight.
Exactly. It doesn't always have to come spur from a fight. I agree.
Then in this, I'm just really curious. What was the boundary that came
from a fight?
From your fight?
I mean, this is one I've already been talking about. The yelling thing or raising your voice. I should say raising voice because I'm not actually yelling. That is a boundary that he has set that he doesn't like when I raise my voice. So I don't raise my voice. We just fight really well.
Sure.
Both of us are big, so this is not going to be very helpful. But I think both of us are very good communicators in life, and so I'm very fortunate that and he's very fortunate as well. We're both very fortunate that we have not really have had to teach one another how to communicate. There's just. And both of our communication styles are very compatible. That's like one thing above anything else with Matt and I is that our communication has always been very, very good.
Spot on.
We've just always have very much easily communicated with one another. So hasn't been really much of a boundary we just are really good at communicating with one another. I think for both of us though, it's like we're always very direct and effective. I think it wasn't a boundary that we needed to set, but maybe in a different world, I wouldn't need to set this boundary. Both of us appreciate radical honesty.
Okay.
So I would rather you tell me exactly how you are feeling about this thing.
No matter how rough it is.
How hard it is to hear. I would rather you just say it in that moment. And we can do that with one another because both of us are also very good at taking very hard truths. That may feel really difficult in the context of a relationship. But that's something that both of us is it's in the moment when we are communicating through an argument, being very direct and honest about how you feel or what you're thinking or what your perspective is. Because it doesn't do any good to not, right?
Yeah, totally. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty...
Sorry, you were just making me laugh. You were so tired.
I warned you all that the energy was going to decline as the episode went on.
That is okay.
I set up the expectation. And I'll tell you this all the time. I am really good at setting expectation and meeting that shit. Every time without fail.
I will never exceed. I will meet you exactly where I said I would.
If I set an expectation, I'll never exceed it.
Yeah.
I exceed expectations all the time, Renee. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Jesus.
I just thought you were setting expectations all the time. So that's what I meant. Okay.
Nah, not like that.
No, for sure.
Anyways. No, that's cool. And I was about to say before you started laughing at my exhaustion.
Sorry.
That it seems really special to have found something that's so aligned and compatible.
Yeah.
First of all. Second of all, not every human being can experience radical honesty.
Yes, I agree. We have said some... well, I shouldn't say that, but sometimes in those moments, we'll look at each other and we'll be like, if this was another human being, that would have taken a whole extra week of solving and figuring out like just by like processing that statement that you said, right? Like that could like processing like the hard truth of that statement could be a whole week extra of that. I think for both of us, it just comes down to understanding that like we're humans and like we're going to feel certain things. And as you are in the pursuit of a long-term relationship, you're still going to feel things, right? And it's understandable as you like evolve with that person.
Then the experiment in this situation will naturally be whether or not the structure can withstand such aggression. Yes. And that can, because from what I've experienced, what I've observed, it usually doesn't work that way. But if you guys are both individually, your defenses and your filters are sophisticated enough to process that, be very interesting to see how well that is sustained over time. Yeah. I would be very curious about that.
Yeah. We always know where each other's at, so that's always good to
which
know.
is like
that. Like can be very anxious and I think that's also we're both very anxious people in our own ways. So it's like we always know exactly where each other is at, not even just with each other, but in life and stuff like that. Being very honest with, because sometimes that can even be hard. Being honest about maybe how you feel about life or something like that with your partner. I'm afraid of what they'll think, etc.
Yeah, that's cool. I had an anecdote when I was fighting New Orleans.
Yeah.
We had a fight in New Orleans. And I realized if I'm going to be in the moment, you want me to be hyper emotional and you're process those things in real time with you. I'm a person that needs connection. Yeah. Right. I need to understand that we're both on the same page. Yeah. So it's like, we can fight, but you're going to hold my hand through this process.
Yeah. Right. Totally.
Right? We're going to be back to back. Some sort of physical connection when the mental isn't sustained. Right. Right. So that was a boundary that came up.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Which is funny because she's like the opposite. So it's like, what do you want?
Right.
You gotta pick one.
Right. Like if you need this is what I need as well. Like it's not just about you.
Right.
Right.
I'll process this in real time. But you're gonna touch me.
You have to you have to hold my hand. Wow, that's horrible. What a tough thing to do.
I mean, like, we don't have to get into the structure, but
I think sometimes people can get really caught up in like, well, making sure like their things are being met or like, I don't really know, but just like get caught in the principle of some weird principle that they get in their head of things. They're like, I
don't want to touch you unless we're perfectly aligned, blah, blah, blah. Right. Like, but like also
if we want the solution oriented, if we're both solution oriented and we want the same goal of this to be resolved, then you give me a little, I give you a little. Right. That's what's required. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree, because at the end of the day, you withholding this isn't going to help the interaction.
Because you are a human and you have needs too. Exactly. I agree with that. But I think hopefully through the first disagreement and the end of the third month of dating someone, the goal and the hope is that you are growing closer through this. It's an opportunity to feel like you are knowing the person more in a more like complex way, in a more deep way.
It's like the first hurdle you have to overcome so that your bond is solidified. Exactly. Like I said before this started, the harder you fight, the better you love. Yes. Right? I know you think it's so freaking cute and romantic.
Jem has all these little quick this and that,
little like statements. One-liners.
You guys, I don't know if you have already noticed, but hopefully you'll start noticing. He has a lot of little quick this and that statements, and it's adorable. I love it. Keep going.
I reject the adjective adorable and cute with every fiber of my being. And you know what? I'm not mad about it, and I won't apologize for it.
Fair enough. I won't apologize either.
Well, there you go. Agreements, boundaries that just got set. I don't know. What was that? That was interesting.
I don't even know.
But no, the harder you fight, the better you love. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, you kind of have to lean into it because, like we said earlier, it's a byproduct of you wanting closer and more engaging interaction.
Yeah. I think a mistake that people can make in this third month is feeling like being too caught up and like wanting to like maintain the like perfection that has been of the first 2 months, and not wanting to like mess with that too much, not wanting to shake that up, trying to avoid having some sort of disagreement. Also falling into the trap that the third month of dating someone, that is too early to have like a disagreement. I think that's quite the opposite, right? Like we were saying, you're in this context, you're wanting to hopefully engage in a serious relationship in general. And hopefully by the 3rd month, kind of getting the idea and understanding that you really do see something serious. I mean, towards the end of the 2nd month, but like really like that being solidified, that you see a lot of potential in this person that's in front of you. And so if you do see potential in that person, do yourself and them a favor by leaning into that first argument, not 100%. Shying away from it,
100%. You fight because you care.
Yes.
So
if he ain't fighting with you,
does he really care?
Right. Probably not.
Probably not. And that's not even one of those really aggressive ultimate like absolutes either. Like that's
I think it's just like a part of like human nature. Like if a person's not willing to engage in conflict with you in general, they probably don't care enough about you to engage in that conflict.
Or even more, if a person is incapable.
Yeah.
Like maybe conflicts is just not happening.
Right.
Because he doesn't care about you.
Right.
You're not triggering the things in him or in her that are worth being concerned about.
Right.
And that's problematic.
Yeah, 100%.
Not that you should go out of your way to incite conflict.
Right, we should. That's not
like, what are you doing?
Let's not look for the conflict, right? Start unnecessary arguments, of course.
But if you feel something strongly and you express it, and then they are defensive, and it naturally unfolds into a emotional heightened situation. Well, congratulations, my friend.
Right.
You just got yourself a disagreement, a little fight situation.
Love that.
And you're on your way to building a beautiful relationship.
Exactly. And there's just like such a high too at the end. Like once you find that solution.
All right. Everybody calm down.
It's true. I feel like there's like a sense of like accomplishment then in that.
Oh, that type. Okay. I thought you were feeling the high of like fighting.
Oh.
Your emotions are wound up. So now you're
Are you talking about angry sex?
Yes, but also like more so
fighting. Addiction, being addicted to like fighting the conflict. I see what you're saying.
Because it feels like those heightened emotions feel really good. Like I need to feel it all the time. It's like, all right, adrenaline junkie, go jump off a cliff. Like, what are you doing? Not don't kill yourself, but like, bungee jump is what I meant.
Bungee jump.
I was talking about bungee jumping. Because like, outside of that sounds kind of like, go jump off a cliff, man. Like, whoa, that's not, no, man, I'm just kidding.
It's okay.
Just kidding.
No, the high of finding a solution, the first solution with this person, and coming to that. So,
and then it's like to that point, right? The high is like, you feel so seen and validated once you guys come to like, you're so disagreed. You're so divergent.
Right.
Now you guys can come together in a mutual solution that works for both of you.
Yeah. That is 100% how you should feel at the end of that, right?
I'll take that over sex every day. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's just
it's
crazy.
Great. I feel seen. This is true. I agree.
I just want to be seen. Y'all understand?
Oh my gosh. I don't.
But yeah. I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up. A little rabbity rap.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. He really went in with that. Yeah, I think this is a good place to wrap up. I agree. Next week we are going to go into month 4,
which comes after month 3.
Which comes after month 3,
which comes after 2 and 1.
Exactly. Yeah. You get it.
We're
oh my god.
Right here, girl. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I'm excited though to dive into the second half of this series because I think now there's things are starting to be really established.
Y'all are a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Being a thing.
Right, and what does that look like? Right. What are we navigating with that? So I'm excited to do that. But I think that's all we have for today, right?
Okay, yeah. Well, again, let us know if you were to switch bodies.
Yes.
What's the first thing you're going to do? And if you're a woman, do you want to punch things? And if you do you need some help? I'll talk to you. We can have a little conversation about it. We can get to the bottom of this.
Set you up with a therapist.
No, exactly. We'll get to the bottom of that really, really easily. But for now, I'm Jem.
And I'm Renee.
And we're the
Intellectuals.
Signing off until next time.
All right. Bye.